And you can hear me all right? Everyone, very good. Good, good. Yes. And I realized that it's cold outside, so many people decided to stay at home. But here's a few brave souls. Very good. Okay. So let's start by just finding a comfortable position. Close your eyes. And just register what is here. This moment, right now. Your experience. Whether it's an emotional state, you feel bodily sensations, thoughts are coming, and what's coming through the senses. Experiencing my voice. You just notice this moment. See that the body is relaxed, and there is a complete allowance of thoughts, the movement of thoughts, emotions, or whatever comes. You just observe. Completely attentive. You don't have to follow any thought. You don't have to fix anything. You just watch. Just stay here in this moment and notice what is coming and what is going. And notice all the subtle tendencies of the mind. How the mind is longing for thought, engagement, the next thing to happen. All these things. Just notice the tendencies and just stay as you are. No need to get involved in any thought or anything. And if there's tension, if it just resides physically in the body, you just relax. Often when you concentrate, you tense up. Your thighs can start to tense, or your hands, or your jaws, shoulders. Just notice those areas and see to it that you're relaxed. just invite this moment completely. You welcome it. Whatever it brings. If it's comfortable or uncomfortable, it doesn't really matter. You just allow this moment to be. This deep acceptance of the present opens the possibility for you to really relax. To allow yourself to become this moment. No more division, no more resistance. Just full embrace of what life brings. And as soon as your daily anxieties, your ideas about your situation, when they get to subside, you notice the deep clarity and stillness that is always there. The depth of being, your true nature. Notice that you can watch your thoughts. And as the mind quiets down, every subtle sensation can be observed. You might notice the body on the level of the bodily functions, the heartbeat, the relaxed breathing, the subtle movements in the chest and the lungs. And the movement of prana in the body, the tingling sensation. There's another layer of this experience. And the complete allowance of all these things just happen, just observed. And the manifestation of the insight that there is nothing to fix, nothing to change. Just remain as you are. Resting as this beingness is natural. It comes by itself when there is no distractions. And if you stay and don't go with your thoughts, it might feel unusual, might feel new, perhaps even uncertain. But you just explore this gap. This space between thoughts. See what it does. What happens when you truly rest here? When you truly allow this space to be, and you refrain from going with the thoughts. You will for sure notice the restlessness of the mind, because the egoic mind thrives on the next thing, on being a doer, and that the mind is happening. So there can be resistance to staying in this silence. And if you stay, you will notice that there is a calm that you can rest here. That beingness itself has a home, and it is this silence. And if you're drawn into thoughts, that's okay. Just come back to noticing that there is thinking. You can open your eyes, you can move your body. If you need to, stretch out your legs, whatever you like. Why is the mind so restless? Why is it jumping around? Where does it want to go? How does it find relief? It is the same longing in all. Everyone wants the same thing. They hope if they do their things, they will come to a point where they're done and they will be at peace. Right? You can have this feeling during the day. I just have my list of things to do, and when I'm done, I can just... And this is the promise of the egoic mind. If you just do what I say, you will come to a point of conclusion. But if you watch the mind, you notice that this point of conclusion is never really there. It's always the next thing. There's always striving. There's always trying something more. Maybe I should try this instead. This doesn't really work. Da-da-da. And this makes the mind very bad at one particular quality, and that is one-pointedness of the mind. And I know that many of you know the very famous from Ramana Maharshi. He talks about this a lot. Keep your mind on one thing. And for so many people, this is impossible. You look at your mind, the crazy monkey mind jumping around, and say, how is it possible to keep it on one thing? Because when the mind is like that, it gets so much space. It gets so much space to identify with things, to create something, and all the time push. We have to go to the next thing. Something more has to happen. And maybe you notice sometimes that there is a gap. Suddenly your plans they vanished somehow. It happens to all of us. Just goes. And there is a gap. And the mind does not know what to do in this. It has to fill it with something. Right? It will say, let's go to the next thing. Or we can do what I planned next week, this weekend already. Because there is time and you fill up. But every opportunity that creates that space is just that, an opportunity. To watch the mind when it struggles with trying the next thing. I know that that is uncomfortable. And some people really hate that state. But that is just because there is no clarity in that. There's no finality. And that is always the promise with every action. But if you stay in this space between thoughts, you will notice that there's a lot of spaciousness there. There's a lot of space for the mind. And it feels like a hurdle sometimes. When you approach it a couple of times, it's like a little period where it's really uncomfortable and then it relaxes. You notice this? If you try to, it's like coming down from the high of being with the egoic mind, and it just has to subside a little bit and then you can relax. And many people never move into that area of things. They go with the restless mind and find something else. They never allow this peace. And I know that if you just have practiced meditation for a while, you know what this is. You know what that tension is of the doer. And when you let go of it, and what happens, usually the tension has to be released somehow. There can come tears, they can feel a little sorrow for a while. And then there is space again. Because I think for many people it feels like, I don't know what this tension comes from. It feels like it just creeps up on you. But it comes from identification with thoughts. And since we're just so accustomed to going with the mind, it just seems normal. And everyone else does it. So it's just normal behavior. But normal behavior is not good for us. And that is another myth that I'm very happy to destroy. And it's the myth that if you just go along with whatever society tells you, you will be fine. And I think that one of the first things you need to realize, if if you start with meditation practice, is that it is looking at what is instead of what you believe. And to me, one of the funniest things I've ever heard is when people ask me if they have to believe in something to join these meditation sessions. Because it is the opposite of that. So it becomes, it's like a joke to me. Because we explore our beliefs in meditation. We look at how our beliefs are false. What we believe in, what we think the mind is, what we think thoughts will do to us, what we think emotions will do, all these things, that I would call beliefs. All the ideas of what is this person, what is this purpose, all these things. And I understand everyone who feels hesitant in light of that. Of course. That is scary stuff. What if I don't like what I find? What if it turns out that it just shows that I'm a very dark and quite evil person? But the beauty of it is that it's very practical. And if you just stay with it and don't give in to the mind too quickly, everyone will have the experience of the present moment as it is. It will come in meditation. It will feel spacious and expansive. That's usually the words that are used for it. But they don't really describe it because you have to experience it. I cannot transmit it or give it to you in that sense. You have to experience. And if you're open to the experience, it will be very easy when we talk about this. Because you will automatically go to that space now. Because we talk about it. You will just start to observe. Even if you notice that it's thoughts and maybe you have ideas of what I'm talking about or whatever it is, it's so easy to go to, oh, let's just watch that. And in us there needs to be, something needs to relax to be able to just be. Because this strong trying will be an obstacle. Did I tell you about the two brothers who went to Japan to go to a Zen monastery? As Ola has heard this, maybe. I can just very briefly, if someone hasn't heard it. There was, I think this is a true story. I think they made a documentary about these brothers. And one of the brothers were really into Zen meditation. And he wanted to go to Japan. And the other brother didn't know what to do with his life, so he went along. And the Zen brother had so much trouble at the ashram, at the temple, meditating. Everything was difficult to him because he wanted it so much. And the brother who didn't care, everything came easy to him. And it just shows the mindset of the meditator. Because the difficult thing with holding meditation very highly is that you can be very tense in your meditation because it's really important. Everyone should meditate. You would say things like that. This is so important. This is the most important thing in my life. And you get super tense from that. And that's why I so often talk about playfulness and experiment with it and not being afraid of doing wrong and all these things, because they relax you. Life is a play in that way. It's not serious. And yet at the same time, the deep sincerity, this deep longing for the truth must still also have a space in that. But it is like it can be more expressed if there is not too much seriosity. And I notice so many people on the spiritual path that get super serious because they really found something profound, and then they get really stuck in that, and they correct people all the time if they don't say the right things about meditation, and they write on the internet in different groups and forums and correct everyone. And that's just super much tension in that. There's so much trying, so much upholding. And the beauty of beingness is that there is one part of it that just does not care at all. It does not care about the gossip. It does not care about what people think of you. It doesn't, all those things feel... It doesn't care to uphold the tradition in a very, very specific and rigid way. Because what is the tradition? There are some outer expressions of it. Beautiful teachings that have been written down, and you can take part of that. But the depth of it is beingness. How can it be taken away? It cannot. And if you come back to it, it will be the same experience for all. They will have their psychological makeup, they will have their challenges, they will find their egoic mind in different ways. But beingness itself has the qualities of beingness. It's not different, or you don't have a chance to it because you've been in jail or done immoral things or whatever it is. It doesn't matter. Beingness is still beingness. But if you're not honest with your experience and what is going on, you will have to face that. And this, for many people, is the scary stuff. And it doesn't have to be very big, but you just have to face your ideas of shame or not being enough or whatever it could be. Loneliness, all these things. And in most of us, those have the expressions of fears. You're afraid of dying, so you think that you have all the illnesses, and you read on all the forums about, I feel a bit pain on my left side, maybe I'm dying somehow. And you go into all these fears. It's so easy that it happens. And the more beingness is allowed to be there, the easier it is to deal with all these things, because there is a apparent quality that is not going away, that is not getting better or worse, that cannot be sick or die. Yes, please, in the microphone.
I really like that you speak about these subjects which we hold. Sometimes we held something as true and no one does inquiry into it. I mean, for me, yeah, I I feel I don't know what word, but yeah, a lot of just appreciation for that. And yeah, maybe you could crush some more of these spiritual
more spiritual myths.
Absolutes. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It hasn't, like the age of our body doesn't have anything. Doesn't have any obstacle. Like, it doesn't matter if we are 20 or 80 or...
No, and it's such a common thing when you start meditation, you can have the idea, oh, it's going to take a long time, this. It's such a deep subject and it goes so vast that it's going to take forever. But what will happen with you if you relate to your beingness? You have no idea. But the idea that there is a time is going to take 10 years. It's going to take this time. It creates that. And suddenly there is a lock on how you can relate to things, because you have the idea on yourself in time.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if this is correct, but like, I observe myself and I just fall for these things that I listen to or read sometimes, and then they say by this age, and then it's like, oh my god, and then it's like I have to wait until next time.
Next reincarnation.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the best one.
Yeah, and and of course I realize, but still, I mean, then it's like, oh fuck. Yeah, and yeah, so it's good that you crush these subjects with ingrained beliefs in some traditions, at least. But could you, for example, we spoke about the, how do you say, Muladhara Bandha?
Muladhara Bandha.
Muladhara and to...
I just explained to people who don't know, it's a yoga thing, a lock in the body that you can hold. That is down here.
Yeah, the
Yes.
root chakra.
Yes.
Yeah, and like, I don't hold that in most of my daily life, and when you say that we should relax into this moment,
Yeah.
and if I try to do
Okay.
that,
Okay.
then there is
Yeah. I understand your question, and don't focus too much on those things, because they just become another thing that is right or wrong. And I'm a bit hesitant to, that I talk very, very little about how you should sit and how you should keep your body or whatever. And people ask me, but can I lay down? Yes, you can lay down, but if you fall asleep, it's better to sit up, I would say. Very simple instructions. And I never go into technical thing on how you should sit. And if you ask me, I can answer, but I don't want to make that a big thing, because it's not really important. And if you start to say, yes, but I want to go to this ashram and we sit 7 hours a day and I get this physical problem from sitting, then you can talk to me. But if you sit half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, you can sit pretty much however you like. It will never really bother you. You can sit in simple cross-legged position all the time. If you just sit on a pillow high enough, you will be fine. But I can also crush that myth that is very important. And if you start to sit a lot, it will matter more. But then you will easily find out how to. That's not difficult information to come by. So you just don't overemphasize that. And also with all these, I know that I also don't talk super much about all these very, very basic things in meditation, like watching your breath. That's a way to keep the one-pointedness, which is very simple. I say that quite rarely because I think it's more important if you notice the stillness in you and you can return to that. That is all that I'm talking about, because that is so much more important. And if you find that too difficult, you can go to your breathing and just be aware of that. But that is so secondary to just being with what is. Because if you just in your daily life, say that you don't even have a meditation practice, but when you wait for the bus a couple of times a day at your work or whatever you do in your studies, you just stop and you just notice this moment. That is so beneficial. You just come out of the idea that you are the thinker. And you just watch thinking. This changes your whole approach to your life quite quickly. Because from being completely trapped in your thoughts and in your emotions, you always have the possibility to come and watch them. And when that venue opens for you, there is so much more space in life. And the whole idea of how serious thoughts are feel a bit ridiculous. They can say, yeah, I really have you now. I have you in my grip. Have who? And you can go to that and you start to observe and you notice, it's just another pattern that I have. And these voices are really nasty in me, or whatever it is. But you can still watch them. Suddenly you can be aware of them. You can sit with them. You notice how they subside. How it changes. All this. This is much more profound than any small thing. Do I have my feet right? Or am I doing this for too long? Or whatever it could be. And I know that some traditions are very harsh with these things and very rule-based. But also, when you impose too much, most people that I meet, they are not crazy all over the place. If you're that kind of person and really into meditation, then you need some real structure. Most people I meet are just really want to do meditation right. And that makes them tense. They just want to do it right. They don't want to do the wrong thing. They want to do the right thing, and want it to be as efficient as possible. And that is also a part of the egoic mind that makes that kind of push. But that, from that standpoint, it needs to relax more. And most people don't come to me and say, I am too relaxed. I need some focus. That happens, but it's quite rare. Most people are too tense and are too serious with their life. They think that it's so serious, the things that they do and what they take on and how things should be. This is my experience. And that's why I talk about things like playfulness. And we have this very innocent, childlike nature in us. And when we're really relaxed, it usually comes out. Or we hang out with kids. It can also very easily come out. And it can just move freely and be very playful. But the adult mind, it is often very, very stiff and a very narrow frame where life can happen. Because it has to be right, it has to be structured, it has to be this way or that way. And this is not, it's not giving the space for awareness. It's giving a lot of space for the egoic mind to just set its boundaries and its rules. And it's fear-driven. It's not driven by a longing for freedom. It's driven that everything is going to be chaos if I don't keep this up. And most people are scared of changing things in their lives. You know, maybe in yourself also, when change is unavoidable, it's not nice. Most people are like, no. Why does this have to change? Why do people have to move? Why do people have to die? I don't like it. It's just, we're so resistant to that. And we try to keep and keep and keep. But this is also an idea of that we can somehow conserve reality into a shape that we like, and we can just keep that. And the more we start to notice our inherent nature, we notice that everything changes. Change will happen, always. And if your acceptance of what is happening, life is just so smooth and much, much more gentle, even if there is dramatic things. If there is acceptance, and you understand the depth of it, yes, I know that everything is going to change, so this is part of that. And to be in alignment with that is to be peaceful. And it doesn't help if you resist. It will just make it stronger and more challenging. And I know that that is not... when we talk about this, it can sound like everything that we experience and our feelings has some kind of a choice to them. But I think if you observe, you also notice that that is not really how things are. And sometimes with the situation, you don't know how you will react. You have felt that? You felt like a situation is coming and you don't really know how you will react. And in the moment, you can take it really good or it can be disaster. And you have also sensed that emotion is not really, you don't really have control over that. Because it is just happening through the systems that you have, what you believe in, and the triggers that are there. And you change that whole, all those deeper behaviors through just sitting with this moment and allowing them to happen. And when you don't react, they don't continue. And it doesn't really feel like a thing in meditation. When you sit in meditation, it can just be, it's just so quiet and so peaceful, and you just sit with it. And you notice that things are coming and going, and you don't react. You don't really care what they are. But if you start to do that regularly, you will start to notice that some things are gone. Things you used to be afraid of are no longer there. And here is the difficult part with it. Because if you start to have the agenda that is exactly what you want to happen, there is identification again. There is trying. There is tension. There is this over-seriousness. So I understand, and I think every meditator at some point will feel super frustrated with their practice. Because that is also a part of what happens. You will try too hard, you will try too little, you don't know what parts to relax and what to be more alert in, or how it works. And maybe you come up with, okay, but I have to be super focused because I'm like losing my focus all the time. I'm just going with thought. I'm trying to be super. I start to get headaches because you're so much in concentration. There's so much tension in it. But maybe you have to go through that. And then you can realize, okay, I can still be attentive, but I don't have to concentrate that hard. I can still just be. There's a quality of relaxation here. But you have to find these things out. You have to try. And don't be afraid to do wrong or be frustrated, or all these things will happen. That just means that you are really sincere in your practice. And also that you have fluctuations between months of peace. There's just peace, 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 peace. And then suddenly it's really, really difficult to sit. Or you're really frustrated all the time. Or you don't know where it's going and why you're doing it. And there's just frustration, frustration, frustration. And then it goes. And then again, 3 months of peace. This is how the mind plays with it. And you will also notice that if you go too much in the same patterns, the mind has a play in it. Because the egoic mind loves to be the one meditating. It loves to have that as a purpose. It likes to sneak in and just, oh yes, it's going really well. It's going like this. I'm going to try this now. And it starts with a story about the whole meditation process and why it's good and what is happening and what's going on at the moment. And when you notice, it can be very confusing because it's so free. Then the practice becomes free again, and you have no idea what is up and what is down, but there is just freedom. And you start to follow this intuitive sense. And it's not rational, like the mind likes, the egoic mind likes like things on a string. Like they're very logical. This led to this, led to this. Like your life is happening, but the explanation of your life is just the egoic mind telling, yes, and then I went to college, and then I did this, and I met my best friend, and da-da-da-da-da. Like it's a story that, yeah, and it was perfect. And every time you tell it, it's the same little joke, and there is like a progression that feels really wholesome or lovely in some way. But it's just a story made, and you could make 1,000 stories about the same events from different perspectives. But it's just one that pertained, and you told it so many times, so now it's your story. And understand that that is how the mind plays. And it just creates something that feels solid. And you hold on to that, and you can preach it to your friends, so they will say, yes, he or she is the kind of person that and you have this persona, and sometimes you don't feel like upholding that. He or she is the one who's always laughing and smiling, and the day that you feel not at all like that, you just feel wrong. It's so easy to come into these pockets. Or this person is really good at this and becomes like a one-trick pony of a thing. So allow yourself to be everything. Why not? Don't close any doors. And actually, I enjoy people that are like they're like paradoxes. You understand? They like things that does not at all work together, and they feel completely happy with that. Because the sadhana, the practice, it's about freedom. It's not about following rules or being the best meditator. Actually, it's quite good to be a poor meditator, a one that has a lot of challenges, because then you're really exploring things. The one who's very serious, very tight, quotes the books and does everything right, can also so easily just get stuck in that I'm that person that quotes the books and do everything right.
They're just a bag of bones.
What are you saying, Ola? They're just a bag of bones? What is that? I don't understand this expression.
Nisargadatta said something you can be very inconspicuous.
Can you talk into the mic?
I don't, this is paraphrasing, but Nisargadatta said something that you can be a very inconspicuous person and be full of love and kindness.
Yes.
And and then you look like nothing on the outside.
Yes.
And you can quote everything and know everything, but you're just a bag of bones. Yeah.
There's do you know about Ashtavakra? Yes, Ola knows. The rest of you, have you heard of Ashtavakra? I read from the Ashtavakra Gita sometimes. It's a beautiful book. But Ashtavakra means the one who is bent in 8 ways, because he had a very deformed body. And one of the stories is that the king is looking for a guru, a wise person to come, and there comes these yogis and meditation teachers from all over. And Ashtavakra, he's dressed in rags and have a walking stick and walks really strangely because of his deformed body. And there are these really rich gurus that are dressed in silk and gold. And when they see Ashtavakra, they point at him and they're just like, there is no chance the king will choose you. And Ashtavakra just laughs and laughs and laughs and laughs, rolling on the floor laughing when they do that. And they're like, why are you laughing? Because this shows that you think that you are the body. And that has any significance. So these kind of things. And also the same applies to what we're talking about, that you have the idea that you have to act in a certain way, that you have to, when you're a meditator, you have to be this or that. You should not smoke cigarettes like Nisargadatta. And many pointed that out to him, that he's addicted to cigarettes, you shouldn't be a smoker and being a guru, and not serious, these kind of things. But for me, I find it lovely. He just allowed the body. That shows to me that there's real, genuine spirituality and not a pose. Because when someone tries a lot to seem and look the part, then I get a bit skeptical. Because they try to fit into the idea and they say all the right things. And it's beauty in diversity. I love that people are different. That they're strange in their ways. That they're weird. Or bent in 8 ways. Because that is not so important. And also the idea of a spiritual person. A person that feel, you meet these persons sometimes that have no interest in spirituality, but they're such good-hearted people. They're very simple usually. They just see, they're very content with their life. They just like what they do. And it can be very simple service job or something, but you can just see it in them that they really enjoy just serving people. They have a deep sense of service in them. And that is their purpose. It doesn't have to be more difficult than that. So the spirituality in itself is not something high level or difficult. Because then again it would pertain to a certain class of people, or that you need to be well read, or you need this or that. It cannot be based on that, because it's just beingness. It's prior to that. And there is so much nonsense. There's so much talk in spiritual, what is real spirituality and what is... So much effort is put into all these things that are irrelevant. And the things that are important are, to most people, completely overlooked. To be kind. What does it really do? What is it really to respect oneself and others? What is love? What does it mean to love others? And can it be happening without self-love? And is there really a difference? Is the love I feel for you out there? And the love I feel for me in here? That is ridiculous. That's not how it works. There's just love. And whatever honesty and what you see in what we can call ourselves, you will see in the world. That's very simple. I think you all know it. You notice it to some degree, that you project your things onto the world, right? I think everyone who's just explored meditation a little, they start to notice that, okay, now I'm pointing fingers again, thinking that someone else is doing something. Oh, they're always like this and this. And that is always a part. And it feels like so many times when you just observe people, you observe politicians and how they point fingers at each other, and then it comes out that they are doing the thing that they are accusing their opponent of. These kind of things are so, because that's how we work. We are projectors. That whatever is in you is what you see in others. And also, when you deeply trust just the space that you are, it's easy to trust others. But it doesn't mean that you foolishly trust others. You can trust certain people in all aspects, but you know that they're not a good cook. They always burn the food, so you don't trust them in the kitchen, and that is fine. But that is just very specific. It doesn't have to do with the large trust and love of them. I just want to make that clear, because the relative and the absolute, people love to just put those together as the same. And that is, if you don't trust an aspect of someone's behavior, you're not really trusting them. You can do, but this is very much how the egoic mind looks at things. It's black and white. If there is a little suspicion, Oh, then there's not really trust, is there? And you can do all these kind of things. And there can be so much love, even in the one who says, no, you shouldn't be the one cooking today. Life is not on the surface. It's in the depths. And you can find it, and I understand that is a difficult thing to accept, because certain behaviors can also seem very erratic and very strange. But after a while, you notice that some people, that person has a really good heart, but they're just really clumsy with words, or they're really, yes, they insult people, but it's not by their choice. It's just how their personality works. It's a beautiful thing to just observe people. Observe yourself, observe others. And we talk sometimes about empathy, like let's talk sometimes about empathy like a quality that you really have to develop. But actually, we are naturally that. And the reason that we are not is that we are completely self-obsessed with the egoic mind. As soon as there is space, you are the same as the one you are approaching. So what is there to not be empathetic about? If you don't have this complete filter of ideas, this trance of the person, you just see what is in people's heart. If they have bad intentions, you will feel a lot of bad intentions, but it's still what is just happening. And you might still feel love for them, but you understand that the behavior cannot be allowed to take root in this moment, or whatever it is, whatever appropriate action is needed. And if it comes from love, it can also be very beautiful, even if there is confrontation. The person might not like it at first, resist a lot, but usually the outcome is very pleasant for all when it comes from a space of love. It's very common that if that is what resolves a conflict, even if the person gets upset in the moment, the chances that person will come back and say, you were right, I was completely out of line, or whatever it is. It's so much, the chance for this is so much bigger when it comes from love. And you will notice it especially in yourself, because there is nothing to dwell on. It doesn't continue. This is the true meaning of karma, is that there is nothing to dwell on, and that your actions don't have to continue. It doesn't create more. It's done. And the egoic mind loves karma. It loves karma being created. It wants more. It always wants a continuation. And it doesn't want to be wholehearted with things, because that stops karma. Can you understand that? It doesn't really want things to be finalized. It wants there to be a little, yes, it's all right, but... and then you can continue with something. It has a little way of continuation. Any questions today?
I'm not sure where the question is, but I've been feeling. I feel like there's a lot of feelings which are slightly unusual for me, kind of rising to the surface now. And maybe it's just my ego making a story out of it, but it feels a little bit like the more I just let the person be and don't worry too much about it, then the more of this kind of stuff comes up. Like I saw a scary movie a few weeks ago. I never normally do that because I get so easily frightened. But it really like touched this fear in me. And I was like really, I had such a strong feeling of fear for like a week afterwards. And I think it was just like, I think it just touched something in me, a fear which I haven't really experienced that for a very long time anyway.
Mm.
And then I've noticed myself getting sort of angry as well, like really angry. I got really angry with my daughter this week. I had to really apologize afterwards. She really didn't deserve it. But I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Like, these feel like sort of like not so usual emotions for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, if there's a question in there.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to say it.
Yes. But I think that there can be many reasons for that to happen. And also, if you're not in touch with certain aspects of also things that are like anger is very, very common, because it's considered not nice to be angry. It's completely antisocial in many ways to be angry. So many people really suppress that. And that also makes them not being able to really put hard boundaries when that is needed, and using that power easily because it's suppressed. So a very common thing when you meditate is that those things start to come to the surface and they start to be expressed, and you're not used to them, so you get a bit clumsy with them, and the power becomes too much. Like you said, you went too far with your daughter and you became too angry at her. And that is also just an expression of that anger that is in you, that power that is in you, that doesn't have a natural outlet. So when it surfaces, it becomes overwhelming. But at one point, I was going a lot to retreats. And I found very deep peace in that. And it came on during one of the retreats, it came a lot of feelings of anger. And I wanted to like really smash. Felt like I wanted to, the feeling of destroying a hotel room. That kind of just destroying things. These kind of energies came up. And after that had its course, I felt very much like, I explained it like, it feels like my emotions are on my fingertips. If I need to be gentle, I can easily be gentle. If I need to be angry and really tell someone off, that is also there. Everything felt like it was so accessible. And for me, that was very new. Because some of the feelings, like anger, had felt very far away. So it's a way also for the whole experience to just be natural with things, because that is also a very natural thing in us, to have this power to really say a hard no. But it's so easy to suppress that part, because people around you might not like it, and when you were younger, you were angry in some situations, and people got really afraid of you, or whatever you kind of experience that built up to that. So it can also be that it just aligns itself, that you're just much more honest with what is coming up and accepting of it and allowing yourself to feel angry. And if that has been suppressed, it will come to the surface. And you will start to also, you might also start to long for things, like you say also, you watched a scary movie, a horror movie that you usually don't. And suddenly you get drawn to things and you don't really know why. You like to watch people who are angry. Suddenly it's like you're really enjoying looking at Gordon Ramsay when he tells people off, and it's like there's something liberating in that. All these kind of feelings can be there, and it's just an expression that they are starting to be accepted and that they're allowed to be there. And with them can come all these kind of things, like the fear that usually locks that feeling down. It also had to rear its head somehow. So, and there's not really something you can do with it, but it's just if you create a sadhana where there is started to be peaceful moments, things will come up. That is how it works, and that creates more space. Because when you cannot say a hard no, there's also there is also always the possibility that karma just continues. And as soon as there was a situation where you should made a really hard no and it didn't happen, then you have like, oh, did I do the right thing? And it just continues there. The karma just continues instead. And if the situation is resolved, even though it's not nice always, or some force is needed in language, or like maybe showing also physically, and it can just be done. And it can create, okay, then that is done. The person knows exactly where I stand. There's no problem anymore. It doesn't continue. And just notice these things, because those are the things that most people don't think create a silent mind. You understand? We're now very like on the far spectrum to be natural with your anger and peace. For most people, they are not close. So that will be difficult to accept also. And I think it was Papaji who said that when there starts to be peace in the heart, there comes a lion with that peace. That there is this power, and I usually talk about it as Kali Durga, this deep-rooted power, that can be aggression, but I usually say it like it's like a mother protecting her cubs. The one that it doesn't matter how big you are, you can never win over that. Because her intention for it is so strong. She can be a tiny duck mother protecting her, but she will be terrible. She will be so terrible. She will do everything. And that is a power that is in all of us. That's also a legitimate power. And it's also something that is very beautiful in spirituality, when that can naturally flow, when there can be a natural no. And you can really embrace a no.
I remembered with the duck thing that Eckhart Tolle said once that when you see ducks, when they sort of fight with each other, and they will sort of fight, and they'll be like, it'll be over very quickly, and then they'll just shake their feathers, and then they'll just swim away.
Yes.
I mean, it's really the same thing, isn't it? They're just like angry and fearful in that moment, but it's allowed to be expressed. There's no story for them.
No.
And then they're fine afterwards.
Yes.
Nobody minds.
Yes. So and also in human relationships, it gets very complicated, because you can say, you did something to me that I can never forgive, and then you create a story that is completely locked, and that is so fear driven and creates so much karma. So there's also great power with our mind. We can question who we are, we can question reality, we can question the truth, we can talk about awareness. We have so much power in that. But also we can be so destructive because we with the same power we can lock ourselves really easily in belief. And I think that is a very good thing to be aware of. Our potential for peace is so vast. The human beings are amazing at that. They can be locked in their mind for a long time and then just see something and completely change. So it has the potential for so much peace and beauty. And all that is needed is just to embrace. Not go with all the things. Not go with all the ideas. Just see what is here. What is this? And dare to be honest with it. And not just go with the mind's ideas of, but is that spiritual? Or these kind of nonsense things. Anyone else have any questions today? Hey.
I got a question.
Yes, very good. I will
Sorry, I was fooling around with the mic.
Yes. No problem.
What if the anxiety doesn't go away?
And what do you mean by that?
I don't know, if you're meditating and in tune with your emotion.
Yes.
And maybe the emotions bubble to the surface. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like my goal is to not feel any emotions. I don't know if that's, and feel calm. I don't know if that's the intended goal or if I'm misinterpreting it.
Yes, there is a problem that usually arises when you try to get rid of something. If your goal with your meditation is to get rid of anxiety, you will always be focused on that. You will look for it, you will see it as a cure to anxiety. But that is not what the meditation is. The meditation itself is a spontaneous thing of acceptance of this moment. And as soon as you have this strong agenda, there is so much of the egoic mind in it that it will create resistance. It will create an idea of, is the meditation working or is it not working? And it's very easy to get stuck in that. I don't know if you understand that part of it. And anxiety can go in meditation, but it cannot be your goal. And I understand that that is strange, and you have the idea that there should be no emotions. But emotions will move as they move. It's just a question of identification with them and the acceptance of them. And if you allow them to express, because much of anxiety, for example, is just emotions that are suppressed. So if there is a little space and if you get peaceful, it can be a chance that emotions can come up. And you will say, but that is not the right emotions. That doesn't get rid of my anxiety right away. No, because that is the movement that is needed in that. And the acceptance of those emotions are just a first step in that. So when you're very hyper-focused on what you should get rid of, you will see the things that are not in line with that as wrong. But that is not wrong. It is just what is supposed to happen. Did I answer your question? Can't see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe not what I wanted to hear, but
No.
maybe that's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to be very honest. So I'm not going to give you what I think that you want. I'm going to say how I see it. And I know that there are some teachers that get really drawn into the idea of pleasing their students. And they want to say things like, you should do 5 steps. You should do this first and then that, and blah, blah, blah. Or something, things like that people like to hear. But I'm going to be very transparent and just say the things that I think that you need to hear. And you might not be ready for them today, and that is also fine. But at some point you will be like, oh, he said not to overfocus on just anxiety. And I realize now what that does. Because it's so easy to get, to have an agenda with things, and that is your motivation. But it's so easy to not have the clarity to not see the whole picture of it. And you won't see it until you see it. And sometimes you just have to go down the same path and go to the same dead end until you realize I have to go in another direction. Okay. Someone else? Okay, very good. So let's sing something. And if someone missed it, the bhajans that we sing, they are on the site and can be downloaded and printed to your convenience. Okay. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, 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 Jai Jai Shri Radhe. May all beings find their way home to the heart of awareness and find peace. Thank you. Thank you.